I want to welcome everybody to the Resident and Family Support Council meeting. We have these on the second and the fourth Tuesday of every month at 3 o'clock. And the link that you use to get into the meeting today never changes. It's the same link for every single solitary meeting. So know that you can just access the meeting that way every week. And please do feel free to share this information with other people that you feel the information could be useful for. We do record these meetings and we put them on our YouTube page. All you need to do is go to YouTube and you could just do a search for IL Ombudsman Program and all the videos will be up there. I think we've got over 30 videos there now, which range in a variety of different topics and can be really, really useful for people that are trying to navigate this long-term care world, which can get pretty complicated. Our purpose of the meetings is to really empower people with information. And we do that by bringing in different people to come and talk, by sharing conversations amongst ourselves, and by really just listening to each other and learning from each other. So today, we actually want to be talking about the holidays and what that should look like in your community that you live in. Excuse me. So we brought in Jerry from Three Crowns Plaza to talk to us today. He's the Life Services Director at Three Crowns Plaza, and he focuses in a lot on this. He's very person-centered in his approach on how he programs things for the facility. And so I want to welcome Jerry today so that he can kind of take us away on this great conversation that we're going to have. Jerry, do you want to? Excuse me, I've got a cough. Excuse me. I think, Jerry, you're doing what I'm doing. You need to unmute yourself. Actually, it says you are not muted. So we're not getting any sound from you. There we go. I'm hearing something.
Jerry, if that doesn't work, you might try signing out and signing back in.
Yeah, you may need to sign out and sign back in. It looks like we've got Jerry signing out and signing back in. So while he's doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and give a commercial for some other things that are going on. One of the things that we're going to start at the State Ombudsman's office is a podcast. We're going to be doing these really about people and who the people are that live in long-term care facilities. So we'll be looking for information coming up on that. We're actually going to do a teaser on that probably at one of our December meetings. We'll invite one of the residents who we are going to be interviewing for that podcast to come and share a little bit about who they are so we can let everybody have an idea about what the podcast is going to entail, which I think should be really exciting. Looks like Jerry may have been able to get back on. Jerry, do you want to test your audio? We're not hearing you still. Sometimes you can do it on your phone. And you can call in on your phone and you can do it that way because it's saying that your audio is unmuted. So I don't know what those issues could be.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing is try the phone.
So if you go to the invite, I don't know if the invite has the phone in it. If it doesn't, tell me in the chat and I will make sure that I get that sent to you.
As long as he's on a smartphone, the link will work.
Yeah, but I don't know if I sent him that link. So it looks like he's trying to figure it out. Sorry, everybody, we're just having little technical difficulties. I've been in 2 other meetings today and they both had technical difficulties as well. So I don't know if it's the weather, if it's the internet, the super highway that we're all riding along right now. I don't know what it is that's causing our problems today, but no, Jerry, you're not the only one who has experienced difficulties today. Carrie, if you have the information with the number on it, could you please forward that to Jerry? Oh, you're driving. Stephen, I see you.
I'm driving.
Yeah, Stephen,
I'm driving and I just did it off my phone and hit the link and it brought me in.
Okay, so I'm going to see if Stephen, is it working? It looks like it's working for him. I got the thumbs up from him. So you could still keep you on video. You could do it on both so that we could see your lovely face, Jerry, and also be able to access your PowerPoint slides. Okay. Another thing I do want to let everybody know while we're waiting to see if Jerry could connect is we will not be having a meeting on November 8th. November 8th is election day, and so the state offices are all closed because we're all going out to vote. So I want to make sure that everybody gets out and votes on November 8th. Because that's our right. We all have the right to still vote. If you have any questions about that, if you don't know if you're signed up or you're not signed up to vote, if you live in a long-term care facility, please talk to administration about that, because that is something you do have that right. You never lose that right to vote once you go into a long-term care facility. So we want to make sure that everybody gets out and be able to assert that right that you have. So again, we will not be having a meeting on November 8th, which means that our next meeting will be the week of Thanksgiving. And that week, we're actually going to be talking about caregivers and giving thanks to the caregivers. So if you know anybody who is a caregiver, please invite them to this meeting. We're going to talk about the stress that entails, how that looks, how that feels, and resources that are available to be able to assist in that journey of being a caregiver. Many times we don't recognize everything that a caregiver is going through. And just because your loved one enters a long-term care facility doesn't mean that that caregiving responsibility doesn't go away. Personally, I know when my father-in-law went into a long-term care facility, my sister-in-law, who was the primary caregiver, she still was extremely as involved. This was her father, and she was still his caregiver and always would be his caregiver. So know that we want to be able to honor those people as well. So we'll be talking about that. I believe the date is the 24th on that Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And so we'll be doing that in Thanksgiving for all of the caregivers out there. So please help to spread the word on that one as well. Jerry, just whenever you get in, just interject. I also saw, as we're making announcements, that Stephen did put into the chat box a variety of our different resource materials that we have, that we put out there for everybody to be able to access. All you need to do is click on those links. And if you want to ever save the chat to be able to access those links whenever you want, if you go into the chat box and you go to where it says save chat, you click on the three little dots that's towards the bottom where you would type your message in. There's three little dots there. And if you click on that, the very first option is save the chat. So you can save the chat there so that you can be able to access these links that Stephen puts in directly into our chat every meeting. And included in that is how to contact the Ombudsman program, a link to the regulations for long-term care facilities. That's a great link to be able to have. Also, the guidance that was just revised for COVID, that was just updated, and Stephen has updated that for everybody. Also, you can get right to our Facebook page from there and our YouTube channel right from there. So Stephen, thank you again for doing that all the time. And Jerry, can we hear you? Looks like he's still working on that. Okay.
Lee, can you work off of his PowerPoint?
I don't have access. So we'll see. If not, we'll figure this out. We always fly by the seat of our pants, right? That's what we do as we have these meetings. Looks like he may be coming in soon. So what I'm just going to do is just give a little bit more of a prelude to what this conversation is going to be about today. We wanted to have this conversation because when people move into a long-term care facility, we want people to continue to live. We want people to continue to live. And just because you enter in a long-term care facility doesn't mean that you give up those rights. So we wanted to talk about what the holidays could look like and should look like for you. Jerry, if you
I'm in.
Yes, we got you. So this is why we brought Jerry into this conversation, because he deals with this on that day-to-day basis, making sure.
Oh, technology.
Yes.
I'm working from the Q Center today in St. Charles, where our Covenant Living is having their national convention right now. So I'm using you guys as an excuse to get out of a boring lecture.
Well, we're glad that you could join us. We really are.
So
Jerry.
my name is Gerald Farinas. I am the Life Services, or I guess Covenant changed my title, Resident Services Director at Three Crowns Park in Evanston, Illinois. I've been working there for 17 years in life enrichment. Now I'm still working in life enrichment with the added responsibility of our chaplains, our transportation services, doing family education and employee education too, especially on best practices for dementia and Alzheimer's care and memory loss. I'm going to try to share my screen now. Share screen. Let's see if this works.
We're seeing it. We got your email.
Okay, I'm gonna go to this PowerPoint. That's me.
Yes, here we go.
About the holidays. Now, I understand a lot of this stuff is going to be things that you already know. It's just a matter of noting what to look for when you go ahead and start your celebrations for the holidays. I'm going to be speaking from 2 points of view. One is if you are living in a community and you're planning events for your community, or if you work in a community, and also for those who live at home and what you can do at home when you're celebrating with a loved one who has aged and might be experiencing some memory loss, maybe a little bit of memory loss, or all the way up to Alzheimer's or other types of dementias. And I'll go over, and this is broad across many different celebrations at this time of the year. There are many holidays coming up. In fact, yesterday was the first night of Diwali, which is the Hindu holidays, which is actually celebrated by non-Hindus throughout India and Pakistan. So it's a gathering of a lot of, it's the same things that we think about when we're thinking about Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, another gathering of family members together. I wanted to, let me minimize, there we go. I don't need to look at myself. I'm tired of looking at myself. We're gonna look at what makes the celebration meaningful for an elder with memory loss, and this also works with people who don't have memory loss. You want them to be able to maintain a lot of the memories they already have and that they still have. I wanted to focus on 3 different things about celebrating the holidays with an elder, and the three pillars are familiarity, comfort, and sensory. Before we get into that, I wanted to mention that the first thing that you want to do for any environment where you're celebrating with a senior, with or without memory loss, is that you want to be able to reduce the amount of agitation. As we age, different things start to agitate us more. Now, when you enter into mild cognitive impairment or full-on dementia, you're definitely going to see triggers that will cause agitation. And you want to reduce anything that might trigger agitation. So you're going to look around your environment. Every behavior has a meaning. I like to share this all the time, especially with our staff members at Three Crowns Park. We've been sharing that here at the Covenant Living, at our educational sessions here for the company that I work for, the nonprofit that I work for in senior living. Every behavior has a meaning. So sometimes that behavior that happens, the agitation that happens, might be caused by pain. It's okay to give a minimal dose of Tylenol. There might be some pain that someone is facing and is not able to verbalize or does not know to express it as pain. So what we've noticed in our communities and elsewhere, I know we don't want to drug people up, but this is one of those drugs that actually does a lot. And it's just plain Tylenol or acetaminophen. Sometimes giving a minimal dose will help get rid of certain pains that someone might not be able to express. And acetaminophen in small doses is pretty much safe across the board. We also want to look for anxiety. This is what this can cause behaviors, obviously. Look for triggers in the environment. Sometimes it's because that they can't hear or they can't see someone or something as clearly. So they start exhibiting behaviors because they can't hear or they can't see. Or they start having behaviors because unwanted behaviors because they're unfamiliar with their surroundings. So you're going to want to cue where they are more often than with you or I. Also, a lot of people forget. Sometimes agitation happens because someone is just sitting there bored. So if you're the type of party host whose stories you're not the best storyteller or you're not the best entertainer, you might be a trigger for behaviors. I'm kidding. Maybe I'm not kidding. Sometimes when someone gets bored, they're gonna start expressing themselves in different ways. Now, before we get into the holiday stuff, I also wanted to touch on basics with communicating with someone who has the beginning stages of memory loss or dementia. And it means changing your understanding and tactics regarding how you speak to a loved one, depending on where they are in their memory loss. In early stage dementia, people tend to become less social. So go into the holiday celebrations knowing this, that some seniors in the earliest stages of memory loss, they're going to want to be less social. They might know that they have memory loss. There are a lot of people out there who know that they're not remembering things, and this is a big cause of anxiety. So this makes them more anxious. Just be cognizant of that. Early stage dementia or just a mild cognitive impairment too. This is the stage where people start to forget words or use simpler words. In all cases of memory loss, you want to avoid correcting people. What's the point of correcting someone when they're going to forget all over again? And then they're just going to get more anxious. You want to go with the flow of conversation when you're having an elder or a loved one with memory loss or mild cognitive impairment with you. Most people in communities, living in assisted living communities or even independent living communities or at home, are at this larger mid stage of dementia. This is the stage of dementia where people are using words with less meaning. An example I like to use in my trainings at Three Crowns Park is there comes a point where everything is a spoon. No matter what kind of flatware is in front of them, everything is a spoon. So when they're asking for a fork, they might ask for a spoon. You're just gonna have to look for other cues as to what they're actually asking for. They start using words that don't match, like calling a daughter mom. Again, you're going to want to glance over that. Sometimes it'll just cause more anxiety when you start correcting people. Just again, go with the flow of the conversation. This is also the stage of dementia or where people start to repeat phrases someone else said. We had a resident at Three Crowns Park who only spoke with the sound dot 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 dot. Throughout the day. This was her language, and we had to learn what her language meant. So you're going to look for those cues as well at how people speak to you when you have them over for the holidays. Again, don't correct them. Don't show you're upset when they use the wrong words, and go with the flow of their conversation. In later stages of dementia, this is where people tend to be nonverbal. This is where you're going to want to use sensory memories, especially from childhood. This is great with the holidays because the holidays are so ingrained to our memory, because it's one of those things in life where you tie it to certain scenery, tie it to certain smells, tie it to certain tastes, flavors. So those are really imprinted in the brain. So the holidays is a great time to bring out some of these memories, even if they're nonverbal. A lot of people in the late stages of dementia, they get comfort from touch. So you're going to try to communicate by touch. Remember, motherly touching from others is a great way to speak to someone. So you're literally speaking to them, communicating with them through touch. The simple touching of the hands, or when you were young, I don't know if you might remember, maybe you don't remember, your mother or father or loved one probably stroked your cheeks or warmed your cheeks that way. There's an innate feeling of comfort that a mother or parent gives by touching, stroking someone's face. It's a wonderful way of communicating to someone with memory loss. Smile. Your nonverbal demeanor is going to affect how a person is going to experience your event. You want to slow your speech and use pleasant tones when you're talking to loved ones over the holidays. Don't raise your voice. There's this tendency when we're with older people to raise our voices. It's not that a lot of people with memory loss, it's not that they can't hear you, they're just needing more time to process what's being said. So we want to slow our speech and use pleasant tones so that it gives a person more time to kind of understand what's being said. And I can't say it enough. Say I love you as much as you can to your elders. This feeling of being of belonging to a family or a community is one of those basic human needs. And being able to say, I appreciate your being here, or I love you, or I love that you're here, that goes a long way with how someone experiences a holiday event. So those are your 3 stages of dementia and how you want to communicate with someone with memory loss while you're celebrating the holidays. Just a reminder, you know this, we have to carry more of the conversation when we're with loved ones celebrating the holidays. We initiate the conversation. We want to be patient. Let people finish their own thoughts as much as possible. When they walk into the room and see the Hanukkah table all set up with the children excited, or the Christmas table, or under the Christmas tree, let them express themselves. Let them see. Let them share what they have to share as soon as they walk in. Don't try to overpower or add to or talk over their experience. Let them experience things and let them share what they have to share. When they get stuck with a memory, they want to share something and they get stuck, that's a cue for you to maybe step in and finish the memory. But don't always do that. A lot of people want to express themselves on their own. And there's this great sense of pride and dignity when someone's able to express themselves and say what they want and get it out of them. But there are times where you're going to need to help, and knowing you being a family member or a worker at a community, you're going to want to know the person. You know the person already, so you should be able to finish their words sometimes as needed. We move the topics. But if they start introducing new topics in a conversation or as they're expressing themselves, move with them. Do not try to stay with a topic or force the group to stay on topic. Kind of move with them. This will reduce the amount of agitation that could happen as you're celebrating the holidays. So that's just a little about conversations as you're celebrating. I love to focus on familiarity as very important to celebrating the holidays or any event, life event throughout the year. Setting the environment so an elder feels like they're where they belong, that this is where I belong. When I walk into a room, when I walk into a group of smiling faces all around me, I want to feel familiar. This morning, I had to walk into a room of 300 people at our Covenant convention. I felt small. I didn't know who these people are. I'm not a big gregarious speaker or one of those extroverts. When you're older, you tend to kind of close in on yourself a little bit. So familiarity becomes very important to an experience, to make an experience, a holiday experience, likable. So you might have to there used to be pictures on this. I took the pictures off the slides. You might have to constantly remind them who you are and who everyone else is when you bring someone into the room. I'm noticing there are messages in the chats. So let me just open up the chat box just in case. So you might
everybody saying how on target you are, Jerry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. To continue on, you might have to constantly remind them who you are. Do not assume that even with mild cognitive impairment, like basic memory loss, just little thing, if just little memory loss, don't assume that they know who they're with all the time. You, even close family members, you might have to remind them who you are or who everyone else more often at an event. I had a call the other day with my great uncle in Honolulu. That's where I'm from. I was born and raised in Hawaii. And he's about 90 years old. He only has very minimal memory loss, but he didn't know what my relationship was with his own kids. So he was talking about his kids as being my aunts and uncles, and that was not the case. But I didn't correct them, didn't correct him. But through the conversation, my mom stepped in. Your nephew, Jerry, is in Chicago, talking about the weather and how horrible the weather is here. You're just going to have to reintroduce people sometimes throughout the conversation. But don't try to avoid have them feeling like they're being corrected. Just go with the flow and then introduce someone later on in the conversation. Let me move on. You might, why is this not moving forward? There we go. You might have to constantly remind them where they are. This is a given. Try to host your event in a room that feels like home. Choose an area that you know has comfortable seating. I once walked into this marketing group, and they invited seniors from the community in Evanston, and they were all seated at these low leather club chairs, and people were kind of I would watch these seniors slowly slip off the covers. And so if that's the type of room you're using, that might not be the best place to host your little gathering. Go to a room where the furniture is a lot more comfortable, where there's I was going to say make sure there's a room where there's less distraction, but sometimes little knickknacks everywhere is great for a person with memory loss. So you're going to have to take that based on person to person. So try to host your event in a room that feels like home. Just like in a retirement community, some people don't want to leave the room where they spend most of their time. So like I said earlier, people like to their world becomes a lot smaller, so they don't want to leave a room that doesn't look familiar, that looks familiar to them. Just know that. So what that means is if you're bringing a family member home, or if you're going to have a special event in a larger room in the community, they might not feel comfortable in that room because it's so out of what their norm is day to day. Just keep that in mind. I'm not saying don't have the event in those rooms, just keep that in mind.
Hey, Jerry.
Yes.
Jerry, this is Carrie. Can I add something to this?
Sure.
When do you bring people home?
Yes.
So it's something we don't think of until it's too late.
Yes.
Think of, how am I taking this person to the bathroom?
Yes.
It is so important that you have a plan ahead of time of, okay, my bathroom doesn't have grab bars. What am I doing? How am I getting them in? How am I getting them out? If they're in a wheelchair, will this wheelchair fit? Exactly. It is really important. And unfortunately, most of us look over it until it's too late. And I'm talking from experience.
I saw that happen just 2 weeks ago, where I went up to Milwaukee, and there was a house party, and a lot of the friends who were invited were retirees, and the party was happening in the basement, and people with walkers had to go down a set of stairs to go to the party, or the bathroom had steps on the first floor. So that was something that people completely overlooked. You want to think about, as soon as they get onto your property, and when they get on your property, think of how people are going to travel through the house, if it's a house. Great thing to think about. It's so commonly overlooked. Layouts of houses and rooms. Comfort, setting the environment so an elder feels like they're where they belong. And a lot of that is going to be your layout too. You're going to make sure people know where the bathroom is. And if even if they have memory loss, if you tell them where the bathroom is, a part of them will know when they feel like they want to go to the bathroom, they'll know, I feel like I know where I'm going. You get them at least that far in thinking. So it gives them a little, it kind of allows them to set their own time too. Is the room too hot, too cold, drafty? This is something that's overlooked all the time. Remember, as you age, your skin gets thinner. And so you're going to feel more extremes in terms of hot and cold. Older people hate drafts. It's a stereotype, but it's true because, again, with that thin skin. So make sure you're looking at temperature, your thermostats. If a room if you know a room is going to be dry all the time because the heat is on, maybe you're going to need a little humidifier in that room. And I'm also talking about retirement communities. A lot of their community rooms are really dry, and those are places where people are going to need a little humidity to feel comfortable, so that they feel the heat more appropriately when the heat is on. Are they clothed correctly? Are they wearing a sweater, clothes not too tight or bunched up? Sometimes we dress our family members a certain way, and then you find out later it is too tight. Or think of looser clothing as a little better for people to move around. So start thinking about that too before you take someone to a room or back home. Think about clothing as well. And setting the scene. Seasonal oil diffuser scents, scented pine cones. That helps add to the ambiance too, and it helps people calm down. I try to tell people don't use lavender oils because they'll make them sleepy. Bergamot oils or something lively like citrusy scents, that works great too. But just stay away from ones that are meant to get people to rest too much. So stay away from lavender. If you must have ambient music, make sure it's pleasant. Moods can sometimes match the music tone and language. If you have teenagers in the house or even older people and they're playing music, just know that this might affect someone's ability to enjoy the experience, especially if they have memory loss. This can agitate a person, and once they get agitated, it's going to take a while to get them back to a more pleasant state. So think about ambient music in the background. Make sure it's pleasant. Comforting drinks and snacks. A lot of people who don't drink enough water, especially when there's heat. Make sure you're hydrating older people more often. I know there's people are afraid of drinking, and because they'll have to use the bathroom more often, but they're more likely to be more lively and be more perceptive to what's being said to them when they're hydrated. So make sure that your loved one is hydrated. Comforting drinks and snacks. Hot chocolate, chamomile tea, herbal tea. Try to stay away from the caffeine. That can sometimes affect people with memory loss, and that causes agitation. So try to stick to something soothing like an herbal tea or chamomile, something without caffeine. Glass of wine is okay. If they always had a little cordial glass of port wine, or just a plain glass of Riesling, give that to them. It's something that they always had. Let them enjoy it. Even it's the holidays. Let them enjoy the holidays. Change the timing of your celebration. Sometimes we force our elders to celebrate like we always do. Sometimes that's just going to be very discomforting for a lot of seniors, even the ones who have no memory loss. Change the time of your celebration if you need to. You know your loved ones, you know your residents. You want to make sure that they're able to enjoy it while they're awake, while they're fully aware. Like moving your New Year's Eve countdown to 6 p.m. at dinner rather than waiting all the way up to midnight, or have dinner a little earlier. I know we talk, a lot of communities use the terminology sundowning when people have behaviors towards the later times of day. You might want to tinker with your timing of your dinner events, or maybe switch to a luncheon instead. Every program, every holiday event, you can add sensory things to your event. You want to set the environment so an elder feels like where they belong through sensory things, especially when you're in later stages of dementia, mid-dementia, all the way to full-on Alzheimer's. Sensory things are the best way to get someone to experience a holiday event. Incorporate the 5 senses when you bring a senior over to your house, or even your activities team at a retirement community. You want them to be able to see things, feel things, touch things, taste things, smell things. We're going back to Sesame Street. Remember watching the old episodes of Sesame Street where they focused on the 5 senses? We're going back to that. You get more out of an experience when you're able to use all 5 senses. Just like children, when we get older, you get more out of using 5 senses. Everything you can imagine can be broken down this way. It helps someone with memory loss better comprehend what's happening. It helps fire up the brain cells and put the brain into more action when you're incorporating the 5 senses. Dress up for the holidays. Comfy printed holiday pajamas. There was a trend. It's been a trend for several years now where family members get together and they all dress alike. That works great for people with memory loss or even Alzheimer's. Being able to see other people wearing what you're wearing, it gives into that sense of belonging, which is a basic human need. And being able to see the photograph when it's done and printed, and they see themselves and they see all these other faces in the photograph, it gives them that sense of belonging. And you're going to want to display that photograph somewhere where they can see it. You can do the same thing with holiday hats. There's a hat for every holiday. There are Santa hats. There are like there are all sorts of hats out there. That works well. Create a holiday dress up photo of the whole family, like we talked about. Again, I've seen this work great with people with Alzheimer's, especially. If it works for them, it's going to work for a lot of people, even younger. When you're aging, eyes have a yellow tint. You develop a yellow tint. When you're talking about food and serving these wonderful meals, serve food of contrasting colors on plates. A lot of people overlook this. Imagine a white plate, mashed potatoes, slices of turkey. All those colors tend to meld together, especially when your eyes have a yellowish tint to it. As you get older, it's going to have this slightly yellow tint. So people do this, serve this in front of a senior, and then wonder why they're not eating, why they're not touching their food. Well, guess what? They might not be able to see that food in front of them if everything is all of the same color. So maybe for your holiday meals, for this, you might want to look for plates that are more colorful, or plan on a menu that has more variety of colors. Red plates, by the way, stimulate hunger, and people with memory loss, or actually anyone, will eat more when they see the color red and yellow as well. It's no surprise that the logos of your favorite fast food restaurants like McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell, they all incorporate the colors red and yellow because it stimulates that part of the brain that wants to be satiated. So red plates work great if you have a family member who you want to be able, for them to be able to eat more of the holiday meal because it's so special. Go ahead and find red plates. Every holiday tradition is adaptable. Aging doesn't have to change the tradition. So, for example, a lot of people love to go this time of the year apple picking, or go to the pumpkin patch. If someone has mobility issues, you can still adapt that activity, that event. Maybe they won't be going deep into the trees and pick apples. Maybe you can bring a bushel of apples for them to pick out of. So you can always adapt these holiday traditions. You don't want to stop doing a tradition just because mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, uncle, auntie is older now and they have mobility issues or memory issues. You want to continue those traditions. Someone brought up at one of our aging conferences, I think it was the one that Lee hosted at Three Crowns Park. When you have a Thanksgiving meal, do it on Thanksgiving Day. Just because we have retirement homes that do a separate Thanksgiving dinner and it's not on Thanksgiving Day. You don't have to change up these traditions just because someone has memory loss or mobility issues. Try to do it on the day of. Same with birthdays. Base your choices on what to do for the holidays on history, the personal history of the person. What did they like to do specifically for it? This is nothing new. You know this stuff. It's just I want you to make sure you really think about what you're doing for the holiday so that it matches what a person likes. What did they like to do specifically for the holidays? What did they like to do as children? Who were the people they wanted to see each holiday? Adapt based on your answers. If there are people who can't be there, maybe a late husband or wife is no longer with us, you can have a photograph placed at the table setting for that person or in front of that person so they feel like that person in spirit is still there. You can do this with anyone who's not there. During the Afghanistan wars, we had a lot of family members who had grandsons and granddaughters. We actually had several granddaughters who were off in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Africa during the War on Terror. They had photographs of their family members at the Thanksgiving table, at the Christmas table. And it allowed for people to feel like that person is there somehow, some way, even if they're not there physically. If you're not able to be somewhere where a loved one lives in a community outside of Illinois, maybe you want to create a framed photograph of yourself to send their way and tell them, can you please put this out at Thanksgiving meal or whatever holiday meal is going on, or New Year's brunch. Sometimes trying something radically new is cause for agitation. You don't want to all of a sudden invent a new tradition with a family member when they have memory loss or they're aging. So try to stay away from new things. Or again, go back to familiarity. Familiarity is very important, especially for seniors with some sort of memory loss. If they never liked plays, why bring them to a Christmas Carol at the Overture Theater? Yes, it might be nice, but really think about that. If they never liked it, don't bother taking them to something like that. Again, it goes back to knowing the person, knowing the residents. Now that we've gone over all those basics of how to set up an environment for someone to enjoy a holiday gathering, I wanted to share with you some activities that we've done together to help celebrate the holidays at Three Crowns Park. I want to start with this slide first. Every activity is a reminiscing activity. Every activity you can think of is a reminiscing activity. You can, even if it's just a moment of silence while sitting on the riverfront. I'm near the St. Charles River right now. It's a cold day, but I drove by and I saw some elders sitting there just silently on the benches, looking at the river. It's cold and damp, but I'm quite certain as they're sitting there in their heads, as they're listening to the traffic go by, as they're listening to the birds, watching the birds swoop right over the riverfront, their brain is firing up a storm of things going on in there with memories. It's a reminiscing activity. Even in the silence, it's a reminiscing activity. Even if you're sitting at the kitchen table in silence, that's a reminiscing activity for someone. Let people help, let seniors decorate. Leave some simple tasks for them to complete at your house or in the retirement community. If it means putting on a couple of ornaments or leaving a part of the Christmas tree bare or leaving the flatware off and have them do the flatware, fold the napkins. Let them do a part of your decorating for your holiday event. Give someone control over something. One of the basic human needs is the ability to have some sort of control of everything going around you. When you lose sense of control, you and I know what that feels like. You feel helpless, or you feel like, what's the point of all of this? If you want someone to truly feel like they belong and belong to this event, give them some control over something that has to do with the holiday. So it could be as basic as folding the napkins. Create a table centerpiece together for the dining room or living room coffee table, or even for their home, for their apartment, for their room. This is a great way to just gather some things that are holiday themed for any of the holidays we're celebrating this season, and put together a centerpiece. It doesn't have to be flowers. It could be anything. It could be paper-based. It could be just walk through the dollar store. I'm sure you can find little things that you can put together. Print out pictures. Pictures. Buy a couple picture frames, go to Walgreens, print out a couple or Walmart, print out a couple pictures off your phone, and have them put the photographs in a frame. This is a chance for you to talk about memories, to talk about the people in those photographs, and the act of putting together that photograph into the picture frame. There's, again, that sense of control, that sense of this is something meaningful that I'm doing by putting this wonderful photograph of someone I know into this picture frame. I don't know. It's one of those things that we take for granted, how proud you are when you put a photograph into a picture frame and put it in front of you and look at it. It's something new, it's something personal. There's a lot of feeling that comes out of a person when they're able to do that. You don't have to have memory loss to get that kind of enjoyment out of that. Decorate an arts and crafts picture frame. You can buy a picture frame and put things. You can bedazzle if you have a bedazzler. Let them choose the flowers for arrangements. Let them choose the music. Give some control over the environment you're creating. Music. Northwestern University had a study come out this year. You can go Google search it. The study shows that music builds connections between memories and between people. Nothing else outside of prayers, for people who are spiritual or religious. Music is the one main way that you can connect people between person to person, people between people. If you can get them dancing, even in their seat, increases brain activity while adding physical exercise. So go on and put on some music, Christmas music, or some. We just had the Jewish high holy days this past month. Klezmer music. Put that on. Hold their hands. Dance in the seat. One of your best friends is, the prices are going down on these devices. You can get an Alexa device for $15. You want to be able to set music. You can set music stations using these devices based on the genres. They have free services to get that music: Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Apple Music, Pandora. You can ask Alexa, you can ask Google, you can ask Siri to play certain kinds of music for the holidays, or just in general, that's music that they like. Ask your smart speaker questions that help reminisce. Do you remember Andy Williams? What were some of Andy Williams' favorite popular tunes? Alexa, play the Andrews Sisters. Alexa, what were the names of the Andrews Sisters? You can use this as a great tool for enhancing the holiday experience at your home with someone who's a senior. Actually, this is great with the kids too. Sometimes the seniors just love watching young people ask Alexa, Google, Siri, different things, and they answer back. That alone is a wonderful intergenerational activity. I'm
going to jump in again, Jared.
Yes, sure. Yes, please.
So, please, when he talks about the devices, there is nothing more helpful. My son, who has zero short-term memory, uses his Google for everything. Mm-hmm. To Google what time is it, to the weather, to what day is it, the score of a baseball game, whatever. But even more so, we program, and he uses it for music, but we also programmed it to call the nurses on the phone. Mm-hmm. So he has seizures, and unlike a lot of people, he can talk through them. So his Google is programmed to call the nurses. Mm-hmm. You can program that Google to call my daughter, call my son, however you want to put it, what the wording they're used to. Mm-hmm. He also uses a Facebook portal the same exact way, and he does all of it by voice. Nothing has to be done physically. It is all done by voice, and they are fabulous.
Yeah, like Carrie said, it will adapt to a person's voice too. In fact, you don't have to call it Alexa or Google. You can actually change the setting so that it could. You can name the device for them. Maybe it's your name as a daughter or son or whatever, or brother or sister. Yeah, it's actually an overlooked tool for seniors and even developmentally disabled persons. It's a great tool. It's just learning what you can do with it and how to use it. So do take advantage of that. Thank you, Carrie. You can do classic crafts. And this is, again, these are very sensory and they're very simple. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just being able to sit down and have a conversation while you're stringing up cranberries. Go to the grocery store, buy a bag of cranberries and just thread a needle and just string them up. Unseasoned air popcorn. I know it's so old fashioned, but I had these Girl Scouts come to Three Crowns Park. I had a giant popcorn machine. We popped a lot of popcorn. The residents just didn't realize how many feet of garland they made just stringing up popcorn and cranberries. Stringing colored loops. Remember those paper loops that we used to make as kids? Guess what? It really stimulates the brain doing that. And you don't have to use the colored loops because it looks childish sometimes. Go ahead and look for other types of materials to do that. Ribbons, different fabrics, even things from your home. You can cut strips from old fabrics or old t-shirts and then loop them together, and you can actually create little patterns with them. You can quilt together using these fabrics and scraps. Maybe you can make a little tree, an ornament for a Christmas tree or a tablecloth or whatever. Painting simple holiday scenery on canvas or wood panels. In fact, they already have kits that you can buy at Hobby Lobby, any of those places, and just paint together. They make these little wood or canvas kits where it's just reindeer eating on the grass, which is very scenic, very idyllic this time of the year. Leaf rubbing in notebooks. It sounds a little simple, but when you go find a nice little notebook that looks like something a scientist would carry, or an anthropologist or horticulturist or an arborist, doing leaf rubbings to graphite instead of a pencil, it might feel more artistic to use those little graphite bars or whatever, and just do leaf rubbings in these notebooks. Go out into the park, go out onto the street right now, tons of leaves everywhere. Pick out different kinds and sit together and just do those together. We had the Boy Scouts. I love utilizing community members. We had the Boy Scouts over and we did a project that was similar to this. And we sent the younger people out to go pick up the leaves, and they would each have their own notebooks that we bought. Cheapy ones, you can get them at the dollar store. So the resident has one and the younger person has one, and together they're doing leaf rubbings and talking about the leaves. And then the kids start talking about what they like to do in the trees, different things that they love about fall or winter and things like that. Paper snowflakes. I know it sounds easy. I know it sounds kiddish, but if you buy nicer paper, this is something that can go very well with someone. It takes a lot of thought to do those cuts. The brain is firing up when you're doing something like this. Holiday themed puzzles, size matters. You know your loved ones. Maybe if you have memory loss, you're gonna or tactile problems, you're gonna want to find bigger sized puzzles. But if you know that they love to do puzzles and they can do a 500 piece or 1,000 piece puzzle, find a holiday puzzle. Start it now so that you're done by New Year's. That's something to think about. Take a seasonal walk. Highlight the sights, the sounds. If you can't walk anywhere, sit on the front porch, sit on the sidewalk, and just talk through the event, talk through this activity. Sometimes silence can be uncomfortable. Sometimes, like I said earlier, sometimes silence is wonderful, but sometimes silence can be uncomfortable. So you're going to want to talk through those moments when it does become uncomfortable.
And
Walking
Jerry,
through
if I could interject,
yes.
we've the 4 o'clock time. So I want to be cognizant in case people need to leave, because we are at 4 o'clock, and I know there might be some questions and comments. So
Sure.
we're gonna stick on. But for those people who need to leave, please know we'll be continuing to record it, so that you can catch the last couple of minutes of this. And also, I know there'll be some conversation because I took a lot of notes. So.
Thank you. I'll continue on. Yeah, there's not much more. Take a seasonal walk. Go through the mall. Remember, mall shopping has been an event for ages, for generations. Maybe you can't go to State Street in Chicago anymore, but maybe you can bring them to a local mall and talk about visiting State Street in Chicago or somewhere else wonderful for shopping. Maybe there are, you can go through and talk through a department store and just talk about things that are on sale. That in of itself is an activity. What do you think Anne would like for Christmas? What do you think the kids would like for Hanukkah? What did your kids think about? What did you get your kids as a gift? Ask them these things. And try to get the memory going while you're doing these things. Go somewhere if you can. If you know they can handle a visit at a special location, the mall, the lakeshore, a favorite restaurant, go. Let them enjoy themselves at a favorite restaurant. You could even call ahead and say, you know what, I'm bringing my aunt and uncle and they have dementia, or I have a 30-year-old son who has some issues, just letting you know, but we want them to be able to enjoy. A lot of restaurants will accommodate you, and actually a lot of them will give you special attention if you let them know ahead of time. Avoid places that might feel confining. Make sure there's a lot of space. Cooking and baking is a big thing. But if you're doing it, break down cooking and baking into basic steps. Don't overwhelm them with too many unorganized things in front of them. Treat it like a cooking show. You watch the Today Show and they bring these experts on. They have everything already lined up in front of them as they're throwing them into the bowl. Treat it like a cooking show. Sometimes you might want a finished product already on hand to introduce the project or a picture, or just go and taste as you go. Take advantage of the sensory items. When you do this, maybe it helps to have a bottle of wine as you're doing it, even though it's just a baking event. Taste the morsel of chocolate, feel the apples, smell the apples, taste the apples, feel the dough in your hands. Turn it into a sensory event. And then your holiday cooking and holiday baking will turn into this experience that they can enjoy. Cook and bake things that are familiar, a favorite holiday cookie or a stew. In my family, we're Asian. My mother is from Singapore. My father is from the Philippines. They make this rice stew, rice soup dish with chicken and ginger and stuff. That's a holiday thing for us for the new year. You want to talk through the event with memories, your memories or their memories as you're cooking and baking together. This can be done with ethnic foods and traditions, like the Japanese pounding mochi, those sticky rice flour cakes for the new year. It's still doable. You can be 100 years old. I've seen 100-year-old Japanese women still pounding rice flour cakes for the new year. You can even Google search this. It never gets old, or you can not be too old to do these traditions. I work for a Swedish organization. I love creamed herring. This is a thing that I probably would enjoy doing when I'm old. To just open the jar of herring, smell the herring, put the herring on the cracker. It can be quite an experience. Watch holiday movies. I know it's so simple to watch a movie, but you have to put some thought into what holiday movies you're choosing based on their ability to think through a movie. Choose something with less complicated plot. Musicals are great. If you have streaming services, Disney Plus is wonderful. Talk through the movie. Don't just let it be a passive event. You want to talk through the movie. Talk about the characters. Maybe they have memories they want to share. This is the same with the parade. If you're watching the Thanksgiving Day parade, the many Christmas parades, the Tournament of Roses parade on New Year's Day, you want to talk through it. Don't just put someone in front of a TV and expect them to watch it. It's at some point they're going to stop caring. In fact, there are different studies that have timed a person's ability with dementia or developmental disability. They can't go beyond 7 minutes without interaction, and then they just shut down. They don't pay attention anymore. 7 minutes, which is also the amount of time seminarians are told you should stop your sermon. Talk through the parade, not just passively watch it. Decorate for football games. Football is a part of the holidays season too. Put up decorations that remind loved ones of their favorite teams. Cook favorite appetizers. Have a football that the person can feel. You can do this with soccer, basketball, hockey. Philanthropy is another activity you can do. Giving back to the community instills a sense of dignity, pride, and respect. You can lay a wreath at a local cemetery. When you enter St. Charles, the town I'm in now, beautiful cemetery. You can go get a simple wreath or make one and then go to the cemetery, even at the gate of the cemetery. It doesn't have to be a person. You can leave a wreath at the gate of the cemetery. It makes someone feel good. It makes someone feel like they're doing something important, giving back to the community in this way. Choosing a toy to donate to the local toy drive. Maybe just buying one toy. If you're not going to a store, you can adapt this. Maybe going through a catalog. Maybe you can look through a catalog. You won't necessarily buy it from that catalog, but they can help choose something. And then you go find something that's like it. Bring it back. Putting together bags. Fill holiday stockings or Hanukkah bags or baskets for children or each other. Lay things out in front of them so they can assemble them together. Make holiday wreaths. Gather personalized materials they can connect with. A chef or cook. Make an herbal wreath with herbs. I don't know if you've heard of pomanders. I come from a Swedish organization. So in Scandinavia, they like to take oranges and put cloves in, and they can make little designs with cloves. You can Google search any of YouTube videos are great for any of these things. You can look and see how people do it. Do intergenerational sharing, the good old days conversations with younger people. This is a simple activity you can do, simple questions. You can buy those books or go online and look for a list of simple about me questions, about me. Let them answer, don't correct them. Let them say what they feel like. Sing holiday tunes together, print the words. Don't just sing, print the words, put them on a tablet screen so that everyone can sing together. Make sure that the words are big if you know that they have trouble seeing. You can do gift wrapping together, different kinds of wrapping paper, we have residents. We have a 105-year-old at Three Crowns Park that loves to wrap gifts, and she's still good at it. So we let her do it. We have her wrap empty boxes sometimes. The kids love it. To learn how to do gift wrapping appropriately, make the holiday labels or write out holiday cards. I think that's all I have in terms of slides. So those are just some ideas of things that we've done for the holidays. Like I said, almost any activity you can think of, you can adapt it for the developmentally disabled, intellectually disabled, for seniors, people with minor memory loss, all the way up to full-on Alzheimer's. You can adapt almost anything you can think of for the holidays. Any questions?
Yes, well, thank you so much, Jerry, for sharing. This was so comprehensive for all of us. We really appreciate it. And so if anybody has a question and they want to either raise their hand or turn the screen on or just say, excuse me, unmute yourself, please do so that we can get your questions answered. Stephen, did you have any questions that you saw or anything that you wanted to ask?
So I've been looking through the chat, and there really aren't any questions. I think I found that an article from Northwestern on music and memory. I'm not sure. I put it in the chat so you can double check and see if it's the right one.
That might be it. That might be it. Yes.
So I had a couple of thoughts as you were talking. I was jotting stuff down. You mentioned when you're talking to a person, don't raise your voice. Mm-hmm. And so it's natural when a person can't hear you to start talking louder. One of the things that works for me is if the person can't hear me, sometimes it helps to just drop an octave. And if you're a musician, that's super easy to do because the top range of our hearing goes first and we can still hear the lower end. So sometimes that helps. Another thing that helps me quite a bit is writing down what I'm trying to communicate, because sometimes with hard of hearing people, they can read better. Sometimes they can comprehend written word better than they can comprehend spoken word. And if you have a tablet, it can be very easy to speak what you're trying to say to the person.
Cool.
It doesn't work well all the time. Sometimes it messes up the translation, but it does make talking faster.
That is really cool, Stephen.
Yes.
I love
And then
that.
another thing you'd kind of touched on, when you're talking to a senior or a person with dementia, making sure that you're not asking complicated or layered questions. I see that all the time. Keep it simple. And, depending on where the person's at, maybe they can choose between two items, or maybe you just put up a thing and say, would you like this one thing? And they can say yes or no.
Stephen, we've got a question.
Yes.
Stephen, how did you do that? You need to share how you did that with that tablet. Is it an tablet you use?
So with this, it is an app called OneNote, and so it's an iPad, and I'm using Microsoft OneNote. It's not really built for transcriptions, but there's just a little microphone on the bottom, and you push that microphone, and then all of a sudden it's listening to what I'm saying.
I know my mother has used that in speaking with people that have a foreign language as a translator. There's a translation app, and she just thinks it's like the best thing ever. My mother's 89. And a technique that I actually use with my mother many times is my mother's still cognitively intact, but she does have difficulty with some short-term memory, just because that happens as we get older, and remembering people. So I don't ever say to her, Mom, do you remember so-and-so? When I'm doing the introductions, I'll say to the other person, so-and-so, do you remember my mother, Diane? So it doesn't make it feel like she's the one who potentially wouldn't remember. I'm putting it off onto someone else. And that way then it helps, because I know my mother has met them multiple times, but she's difficult coming up with those names. So it kind of puts it in their court that I'm reminding them of her name, not the other way around. But my technique is really to get my mother to remember what their name is. So it's just another way of being able to do this. There was a lot of things. Please feel free to open up and ask questions, because there were a couple of things that I wanted to also comment on when you talked about. Oh, go ahead, AP. You've got a question.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I don't remember how to download these recordings, Lee, and I've been to a couple of the meetings. So at the end, can you walk me through? I just stay on until the end and we talk about it.
Absolutely. I did just put the link in there again for the YouTube channel. So if you click on that link there, it will take you to the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Do you see that in the chat?
No, but I'm going to look for it, but I still just want to wait to the end to make sure I get a chance to chat with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
No problem. I know, Jerry, you had mentioned about celebrating the holidays on the holidays, and that's very, very important to me as a person who used to do a lot of consultation in the regards to quality of life. And so one of the things that we even do in my family is, I have adult, especially when my kids were of that age when they wanted to go out with their friends on New Year's Eve, things like that. Well, what we would do is we'd celebrate as a family at 7 o'clock, because that was Irish New Year's. Because in Ireland, my husband comes from an Irish family. So we would get together as a group at 7 to be able to celebrate New Year's Eve together. And then the kids could go on their way and have their fun with their friends for the evening. So that was something. And again, so it doesn't make it feel like we're doing this out of, because you can't stay up that late. We're doing it because it's another way of being able to celebrate even part of our heritage. We have relatives over in Ireland that are celebrating it at 7 o'clock. So we can celebrate, we think of them while we're celebrating it at 7 p.m. And plus, I, as the adult, I get to celebrate twice.
Yes. That's the important part. Two
Yes.
cocktails.
That's right. Which brings me right to my next thing. You had mentioned about the wine, and it is okay in long-term care facilities that people have alcohol. They can have alcohol. So I typically say that you should get a doctor's order for it. It's something that should be discussed with the physician, because there are medications that may not correspond well to that. But sometimes just a half a glass of wine, like you said, something little, it's not going to throw it off. So talk to the doctor about that, get a doctor's order for that. And I know many facilities are doing things like happy hours, or they're serving wine with special meals, or at Oktoberfest. It's kind of hard to go to an Oktoberfest without having a beer. You know, that's kind of what is innate in an Oktoberfest, right? You got to have that beer to be able to sing some and do this with your mug.
Or else what's the point?
German music. I'm not even, but I know that this is what we do.
Well,
So,
and Lee, on the note of alcohol, when you're talking to the doctor, and I absolutely recommend that too, if the doctor says that's not advised, and they're you know, that's their stance and they're sticking to it, you know, if it's something like a religious thing, ask the doctor. Don't ask the doctor, can I? Ask the doctor, how much?
oh, I love that. Very good, because there are some physicians who frown on alcohol, period, in people's lives. And so if you are somebody, I put the poll up just so that people could be able to do the poll while we're continuing to talk. I don't want to forget to do that, because sometimes I forget to do those things. So I think that another thing that I wanted to comment on was the photos. And again, great idea, take photos, bring photos, but we have a tendency to always want to show people photos on our smartphones now. And
there's something to be said, right, with photo, with the real photos.
89-year-old mom is like, I want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to be able to keep going back to it. So when I show her photos, she's like, I like that one. I go right to my Walgreens app, because that's just the easy one for me to use. And I go, boop. And then my mother drives. So I'm like, go pick it up at Walgreens whenever you get a chance. It will be there under your name. So she just goes through, she looks at my pictures whenever we see the grandkids or we go someplace. And she's like, I want a copy of that one. I'm like, send. And so again, having that copy of that picture can really, really be helpful. And to take those pictures and then share those pictures with the people that you just took pictures of. That's how we can create and sustain memories for people, because that's what we're in the business of also doing, creating and sustaining memories. If anybody else has any comments, please feel free. I've got a couple of other things that I'm just, another thing that brought to my mind, Jerry, when we were talking about meals and food, how important is food when it comes to celebrations of all different types of celebrations? It's always about what are we having for food for this event or that event. Love it the way you said, get the residents involved, get the people involved. If you're coming to your house, ask them what they want. If it's going out to having a celebration in one of the long-term care facilities, ask the people what they want. Because many times you'll find there's some simple thing like, you know, I'd like cheese and crackers. I haven't had that in a long time. Or I really like that fish dip that you used to make. And so there can be that thing to help make that event more meaningful for the individual.
My friends know that I have to have canned cranberry sauce.
My mother's the same way.
Always there every Thanksgiving when I go to Wisconsin. It's canned cranberry. And I don't want that fresh crap.
My mother is the same way. She likes her canned stuff. And my sister-in-law always makes really fancy, very good. She boils the cranberry, does all that. But my mother, I like the canned stuff. Ingrid's is good, but I really like the canned stuff. And then the other thing that I also wanted to share is that, you know, many times at a holiday is when we give thanks before the meal. And to continue to do that, it doesn't have to be a denominational prayer. It can just be, let's give thanks to all being here together, all being able to celebrate together, all being able to, and a variety, people do it different ways. Some people like to hold hands with each other to give that connectivity, but to do that, to create again, that this is a special we're celebrating the holidays. We're celebrating a special event. That's what we do as families, to be able to bring that connectivity. That can also be something also we might want to do.
That holding hands is very important. Like I said, touch. A lot of memories are through touch. Yeah,
absolutely. I know you also mentioned about using the smart devices. Boy, they made me so much smarter. These smart devices I actually heard a story from one facility. They had an Alexa on one of their in their dementia neighborhood. And the residents loved it so much. They would say, Alexa, play us a Polish song. And she'd play a Polish song. And then somebody else would say, Alexa, play just a variety of different music. Oh, geez, my Alexa's talking to me right now. We're going to start getting a Polish song playing. She's heard me. Sorry. But
Alexa will also sing for you if you want her to sing something or tell you a bad joke. You can ask Alexa, tell me a dirty joke. It'll tell you a dirty joke.
And she'll make different animal sounds too, which I know can be kind of funny to hear. All of a sudden hear a lion roar coming out of the Alexa device. So that is a great thing to, again, to really help make that, the experience is more fun.
One of our residents for last Hanukkah during the pandemic, we couldn't have, her cantor used to visit her. We had Alexa play the Jewish prayers that were sung for Rosh Hashanah. So Alexa did that for her.
That is a great idea. I love that idea because that can be a very complicated thing to do, on that daily basis, especially like during Passover or any of the high holidays. It can be very difficult if somebody wants to be able to celebrate those holidays so they can continue to happen. I love that. Wonderful. Really good. The dancing you talked about. Wow. We should all be chair dancing. Again, that brings really great smiles to everybody's faces and can create some wonderful memories. So I really enjoyed everything you had to share with us. Boredom is one of those plagues of aging. And we want to make sure that we give people a life worth living. And how we can do that, we all need to take responsibility to be able to help make sure that people are enjoying their time together and celebrating. So thank you so much. I'm just going to sleep that. And if anybody has any other questions, we're going to go ahead and stay on. Jerry, if you need to leave, you can go. I know you've got some boring meeting to go back to.
Oh, they're looking for me, but I don't want to go down there.
You can stay on with us. We usually kind of just stay on at the end just to see if anybody has any other questions.
I'm the only male in my position in this company, so.
They need the male. They need the male advice. So was there a question that somebody was saying?
Sorry. Hi, Lee. This is AP again. I wanted to ask you a couple other questions that wasn't pertaining to what we were exploring today, which was extremely very beneficial because it's something that me and my daughter have been thinking about for the holiday. We want to bring my mom home. So this was also enlightening for us so we can plan accordingly, even though we brought her home back in June. We took her out. We didn't bring her home. We took her out for a couple of days. And it was work, but it was worth it. Mm-hmm. It was definitely worth it. So I'm thinking this time we will do things a little bit different moving forward. I don't get to come to all these workshops. The ones that I do get to come to, they're extremely informative and beneficial. So I'm just very grateful. I don't want to take over. I just want to wait till I have a few minutes to chat with you on my own because I want to chat with you about something else.
Yeah, we had a question about the bunny in Jerry's picture. That was the only other burning question.
I explained it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually just going to stop the recording right now so that we can